I'm Loretta Castine, and I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Cedar Grove Line Avenue branch of Shreve Memorial Library. I'm also a paper collage artist, and what that means is I take little pieces of paper and put them together in a fun way to make a piece of art out of it. That's my medium. And today I wanted to show you a really simple technique of how you can create collage art with everyday materials. Now, this art can stand on its own, or you can add it to a larger work later on, and I'll show you how to do that. But first, let's take a look at what we're going to be making today. I made a tracing of my hand, glued little bits of paper to it, and cut it out. I also did a heart shape out of a cookie cutter, and you can do whatever shape that you prefer, but today we're going to be using my hand and the little heart shape, okay? Let's take a quick look at the items that you're going to need. Your art supplies. We tried to make sure that it was everyday materials. It's no trip to the craft store required. So let's take a look. First, you're going to need, pretty simple, a pencil. You will also need a black marker or pen. You're going to need scissors to cut your paper. And speaking of paper, you are going to need a piece of white translucent paper. So copy paper, computer paper, even lined notebook paper would be perfectly okay to use for this project, as long as the black marker that we're going to outline the shape in shows through on the back, because that's what we'll use as our pattern to cut the shape out. Okay, and I'll show you what all that means in just a minute. Okay, something else that you may or may not need is a paintbrush. I use a paintbrush to spread the glue out really thin on my paper. We're just gluing paper to paper, so you're not going to need big globby glops of glue, you know. You can also totally just use your index finger. It's not a problem. You do not have to have a paintbrush, okay? You also are going to need some kind of glue. School glue is perfectly okay to use if that's what you have at home. Any kind of glue that dries clear should be absolutely fine. Today I'm going to be using my craft glue because I have lots of it here because I use it a lot. So, but if you just have school glue at home, that's perfectly okay to use, okay? You're also going to need little bits of paper. You can cut or tear it into strips, however you want to do it. Today, I'm going to be using something that we all probably have at home, which is junk mail. Okay, so if you don't have junk mail today, you probably will get some tomorrow. Sale papers, catalogs, anything like that can be used for this project. But you can also use other kinds of paper that you have on hand at home. I use a lot of tissue paper in my artwork, and you know, tissue paper, a lot of times kids will laugh and say, what, ha ha ha, and what I mean is, you know, the gift bag kind of tissue paper when it's your birthday, okay? You can also use little bits of scrapbook paper. If you're a scrapbooker, make sure you save all your little bits of paper, because you can completely use that for collage work. And let's get started. I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so here we go. You can see that I have a very light outline here of my hand, and also I traced out the heart and went around it with the black marker. So I'm not going to go through and show you how to trace your hand. I'm sure you know how to do that already. And I'm just going to show you just really quickly that you outline, okay, your shape, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be your hand, okay? So just start outlining that in the black marker, and I want to do this quickly so it doesn't take too much of your time. Here's what I've already done, already traced out with a pencil. And the reason I trace out with a pencil first is because I was tracing my hand and didn't want to get black marker all over my hand. So, and also if you're not happy with the shape, you can always draw a light till you get it right and erase if you don't like what you've done, okay? So pencil first. If you're happy with it, outline it in black marker. Now, here's where the translucence of your paper comes into play, and why you don't want to use cardstock. You want to use copy paper or maybe notebook paper. It does have to be kind of a sturdy paper, so don't use tissue paper or, you know, tracing paper. It does need to be something that's going to hold up to the glue and the paper on the other side. But once we get the front side, okay, covered with paper, this on the back is still going to show through, and this is the guide we're going to use, or the pattern, where we can cut out the collage piece later once we have the other side covered with the bits of paper. Okay, so here's one that I've already kind of gotten started a little bit. And you'll notice that I have not worried about staying in the lines here. It doesn't matter because we're going to cut those bits off. Just remember that if you're planning out your pattern, I didn't. I just kind of did this whole thing randomly because I thought it looked kind of cool that way. Whatever you have over the line is not going to be part of your collage. We're going to cut those edges off when we turn it over and cut out. So what I did was I took a little bit of my decoupage glue, poured it onto a saucer, and got my paintbrush. And we're going to just apply a very thin coat of glue wherever you want to put your colored paper. Any bits that you want to tear, you can cut if you want to cut and make it, you know, really symmetrical. Again, if you want to plan out a pattern, you can completely do that, but really you can just tear pieces off in a random manner, stick them on, okay, and just keep going. If you want to make sure everything's laying down really good, you can go back over what you've done with a little bit more glue. And again, perfectly okay to just smear stuff with your finger. It's just glue. It's going to come right off. It's water soluble. And also, if you are going to use a paintbrush, when you're finished, just make sure that you rinse it out well, get all the glue out of it, because if you let it dry, it's done for. It's really not going to be good for painting. If you do use acrylics or oils or something like that, it's really only good again for applying glue. So, but it makes a difference when that it's flexible when you're applying, and it's not going to be flexible even if you soak it in water. If you let the glue dry on your paintbrush, it's really not going to be usable again. Okay, so you just apply your little bits of paper all over whatever shape you have chosen, and then you're going to let it dry. So it doesn't take very long because ideally you're using really thin coats of paper, and it should dry pretty quickly, maybe 10-15 minutes. Just check with your finger, make sure it's dry. Okay, so I have one that I've already finished and filled in with the bits of paper. Looks kind of neat already, if you ask me. And then you turn it over. Okay, and I've started cutting a little bit already too. And see, here's the line showing through that we're going to use to cut out our collage shape. Okay, so let's get this other side going here. This is so simple and so much fun to do, and you end up with something, I think, that looks pretty amazing for as little effort as it takes to get it done. Okay, so you start cutting that out, cut the whole thing out, and eventually you end up with something similar to what I showed you at the beginning. Okay, so this kind of piece can be totally on its own. You could glue this to a notebook, you could just pin it to a bulletin board, frame it, whatever you want to do with it. I think it looks really neat the way it is. If you have some cardstock, you can continue to keep going and make another piece of art, larger piece of work out of it. I happen to have some scrapbook paper here. I do use scrapbook paper in a lot of my art. So you could do it this way, like this. I thought it looked like blinds, somebody trying to get out or something. Okay, so you could do that. You could add, again, your bits of leftover scrapbook paper that you haven't used, glue all this down. This is another piece of junk mail. You could Add something like that to make it really cool looking. Just the possibilities are endless. Once you start collaging, you can just add and layer and really make some interesting art. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this quick, easy collage project today with me. I appreciate it. Hope to see you back at the library someday soon. And I think it'd be great if you would leave your comments in underneath here, maybe even a picture of what you were able to create. And just in case you're wondering, when I say the possibilities are endless for using junk mail for collage art, this is something it took me a few days, but I got done. It is all junk mail. The possibilities are endless. Have fun, make art, stay safe.